Hello, as you can see, we're already into it a little bit here. We got a project going on the shop truck. Let me show you. So the steering wheel's down, the pedals are all cattywampus. Well, for a while, I could hear a little vacuum leak, little tss coming from the brake booster, which is right under your knees, because of course, there's no engine bay ahead of you there. So then after a while, the brakes got real squishy. To get them to work right, I'd have to kind of give the brake pedal a few little pumps, and then they'd kind of firm up. But if you just tried to push the brakes once, it would go, they'd work, but it would go most of the way to the floor, and that's no good. And here's where we're at now. We got parts all over the bench. I mean, we got a master cylinder sitting here. We got half a brake booster here, the other half of the brake booster over here, springs. Oh, geez. So here's quickly kind of how this is supposed to work. You push the brake pedal, and it pushes on this linkage, which pushes this up and down. This is a rubber diaphragm, and the top half of the brake booster fits on there, somewhere in there. And so you push on this, and this little rod is getting pushed up and down. A vacuum line from the engine plugs onto this little nozzle, so there's vacuum inside the brake booster, but this rod has to push on the master cylinder, which is right here. Okay, that bolts on there. There's a piston in there, and this rod, when you push it, pushes on the piston, and that pushes fluid through the brake lines into your brakes. So we got this rod moving up and down, and we got vacuum inside here, but the rod is outside the vacuum, and there's a big old hole right there. So what do we need? We need a seal. So this seal drops here, fits inside there, and is supposed to seal around this little rod. All right, well, let's take a look at this rod. Pretty crusty on the end there. So this seal is supposed to go over here and make a seal on all that. And this seal drops into this hole, and I already cleaned all this up really nice, but this was just all rusty in here. The seal was all caked with rust and corrosion. This part is toast. So I looked up, see if I could find this replacement part. Of course, I couldn't. I found a part number for an entire replacement brake booster, and I found a supplier that says they have it in stock, but honestly, I don't believe that. I can't find that this booster was used on like another similar vehicle. It seems like it was specific to this vehicle, and this is a weird vehicle, man. This looks like the kind of part that I can make. If you look at the thread on this screw, it's like the thread, what do you call that? The valley of the thread is very shallow up here, but as it gets down toward the tip, it's like, whoops. It's like the thread is fully cut down toward the tip, but as it works up toward the top, it's not fully cut. And I think that's basically just kind of a self-locking function. So as you screw this in, it gets tighter and tighter, and you got to put a wrench on it, but that means it's not going to back itself out or self-adjust, and you don't need a lock nut on there. So I'm hoping, this seems to be just a metric thread, and I'm hoping I can just, on the new part, I can just drill and tap this with a regular M5 or M6. I think it's an M5. So that's what we're going to try to do, and hopefully we can just run this same screw back in there, and it'll just kind of work the same. Oh, one more detail. You can see the spline that's cut on the tip. I don't know why that's there. That doesn't engage with anything. This part can spin freely, doesn't really matter. So we're just going to ignore that spline is there. New part's not going to have a spline. I don't have a great way to make a spline, so whatever. So we're going to chuck up a piece of 303 stainless here. So this will be better than the original. More corrosion resistant, anyways. So we're at 522. The original is 370. So we got 152 to go. take 125. All right, so now I'm at 395, and I'm not in love with this surface finish, but the carbide tool did well for roughing, but I think I can get a better surface finish with a high-speed steel tool. Let's see how this one works for us. Well, that's pretty good. That's quite a bit nicer. All right, and now we're sitting at 385, something like that. 385, and let's double check the original 370. So we got 15 more to go. And where did we land? Yeah, 375. I left a hair on there because I want to, I mean, first of all, I don't know that it needs to be exactly the same size because this is just contacting a rubber seal, but I also want to, that's a pretty good finish, but I can do better with a file, and I want to polish this up. One and a half. See how this screw goes in there. Oh, I think that's gonna work perfect. Yeah, this feels right. I don't feel like I'm gonna break the screw, but it's, you know, it's hard to turn. That's nice. It's just a, you know, it's an M6 thread, and the screw is designed to, well, of course you can see the screw got a fresh scratch mark on it, but once we run it into where we want it, that's where it's going to be anyway, so. that my tool post is not perfectly perpendicular. So what am I gonna do? I don't want to cut this. I don't want this to end up too thin. So I'm gonna cut this off with the bandsaw and then turn the part around and face it off. Yeah, we're at 258. Well, that turned out pretty good. That polished finish on there looks nice. I think we're going to be able to get a seal on that. Let's put the screw in. Before I took the screw out of the original one, I measured the overall length. It was 2.795, so I got almost 100 thousandths to go. A little bit tricky to measure in the jaws. 2.835. 2.813. Oh, 2.8. It read 2.795 in the chuck, but it was hard to get it square on there. 6.5 thou. That's probably close enough. Of course, I had to mess with it a little bit more. We got 2.796. So that's within a thou. That's close enough. All right, so we got a new rod. This seal, from riding up and down that corroded one, it's a little bit chewed up on the inside, and it'd probably be fine if I just put some grease on it. I think it would probably hold a well enough seal, but I kind of want to try and put some like silicone sealant on the inside. All right, so now I've got those little grooves filled in pretty good. I'm gonna let that dry. All right, in the meantime, we've got some light scratches on the bore of this master cylinder. So the whole reason any of this corroded in the first place is because brake fluid was leaking out of here from around the seal in the master cylinder and getting into this brake booster and rusting everything out, right? So we got a leak. We got a brake fluid leak, and if I look in here, I can see that there's some light scoring on the inside of this master cylinder. So I'm going to try to basically buff that out and not even get any new seals or anything. Because when I look at these seals, they look perfect to me. I can't find any scratches in this. I can find scratches in this. So I think the seals are fine. It's just we've got some light scratching happening in here. So let's try and fix that. All right, that's looking pretty good. Can't see any more scratches. been putting off working on this because it's been cold out, and now I don't even remember how this goes back together. I almost just went in my shop and just like cleared a bunch of stuff out so I could pull the truck in and work on it in the nice warm shop. But yeah, then I remembered the steering wheel's down. I can't even steer it. So all right, I got the booster, the master cylinder back on there. I wanted to show you a trick that you probably already know. So when I took this apart, I put all the bolts loosely back in their spots. There's some way down here. So that's nice, because instead of having a jar of bolts that you forgot where they go, everything's back where it's supposed to be. So it's easier to remember that way. I don't exactly remember how this goes back together, but because I did that, it'll be a lot easier. This is the kind of thing right here. See, I installed this brake line, but it's in the way of the bolt. I should have put the bolt in first and then the brake line. This is the kind of thing you forget when you let it sit for a month. And it's better just to not procrastinate, but maybe I'll figure that out one day. Pretty tight. Oh, I do not want to break it. Oh. All right, here we go. How are the brakes? Oh no. I think they need to be worn in a little. They're starting to feel a little better. I think maybe I probably got a little oil on them, or they just need to be heated up a little bit, worn in a little. So I drove this thing to work, and about halfway here, no brakes. So I'm gonna try and bleed the master cylinder again. I'm guessing some air got in there. Maybe my seals are bad and I need to change those seals. I don't know, we'll see. Well, I've got pressure again, so that's good. Well, we got the master cylinder back apart here. Pretty hard to see, but you can see some light scratches in there again. So that's interesting. These seals probably don't fail because they get scratched up. You know, before I was looking for scratches on these. They probably fail because they get less, they're pushing out against the bore less. And maybe that allows the steel part of the piston to move sideways and scratch up the inside of the bore. So maybe the scratches are kind of a secondary failure mode, but first, the seals aren't pushing out hard enough against the bore because they're just, I don't know, because they're old, I guess. That's pretty close. Now here's the situation. This master cylinder is from a, I don't know, it's supposed to fit a Honda something. And it's a 15/16 bore all the way through. The original master cylinder had a 15/16 bore for the front brake circuit and a 3/4 bore for the rear brake circuit. So If you imagine the size of the cylinder being larger than it's supposed to be on the rear, when you hit the brakes, the same amount of fluid is going to be pushed to the front brake circuit as the original one did, but more fluid is going to be pushed to the rear. So I expect that the rear brakes will lock up sooner. So to mitigate that, down here, I don't know if you can see that, we got a proportioning valve. I can't even get my hand in there. So I put a proportioning valve right here in line to the rear brake circuit. So right under the dash, I got this knob I can turn, and I can turn the pressure down to the rear brakes until the rears don't lock up anymore. Alright, I've been driving this thing about a week. Brakes are feeling good. I'm gonna say this one's fixed. That was a long road, man. Been working on this all winter, off and on, you know. But brakes feel good. They feel solid, reliable. I'm not seeing any leaks. They're not getting spongy. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching all the way through. That turned into a long one. If you want to see more about this little truck, check out this video. And if you want to see even more about this little truck, subscribe, because I got another one coming up. I don't know if you can hear this thing. It is screaming. I'm going a blistering 45, and it is loud. It needs a new exhaust. So that's what's coming up next. But thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Cheers. What a beauty.